The Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast is brought to you by no one. Because nobody gives a fuck if you make your movies or not. That's why you gotta go out there and do that shit on your own, pimp. Tonight's show features James Id, creator of the Binding of Isaac trailers, and the soon-to-come robotic Holy War feature film. Jimmy Screamerclauz, creator of Tainted Milk and Where the Dead Go to Die, and M. Strange, creator of We Are the Strange and Heartstring Marionettes.
Hello and welcome to the Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast, Episode 2. I'm professional weirdo M. Strange.
I am Jimmy Screamerclauz.
And I am James Id.
And we're here to be three guys who all do some form of 3D animation and filmmaking, and we want to make our own stuff, and we're going to talk about things that are working and not working, and hopefully help you motherfuckers out there who are trying to do the same thing. So what's not working right now for you guys, Jimmy? What are you trying to do right now that's not working?
Well, I mean, right now I'm in mainly sales and distribution of the movie, and it's kind of, I mean, the reason it's rough for me is because I'm kind of a first-time filmmaker, like first-time released filmmaker anyway.
Yeah.
So it's like you're trying to pre-sell a movie from a director nobody's heard of a movie nobody's seen yet that hasn't really even been reviewed, you know what I mean? So it's been kind of tough doing that, just trying to get the trailer posted around, and it comes out in like 9 days now at this point. So it's like just trying to get it out to as many people as possible, you know?
Yeah, I guess that's why they're always like, you have to have a name actor, right? Because even if you don't know, you don't have a name for anything else until you say, know that Corey Haim's in it or whatever, and then they'll go, you know.
I actually do have not name actors, but I got like, you know, some horror movie kind of celebrities in it.
Oh yeah, that's right. You got Linnea Quigley and stuff. And,
yeah, I got Trent Haga and you.
Hey, you know, I've been talking to this James guy, and he has lots of great promotional ideas. I don't know if he wants to give them out for free over the internet, but
well, I was
probably not. He's going to charge me.
Come on, James.
Yeah. Well, I was talking to Jimmy earlier, and one of the things I this one podcast I listened to called Distorted View does is once they actually got into video stuff, they started posting it to like Xtube, and so, because like the stuff we do is in like a more fucked up nature. I think it's like more advantageous to kind of like advertise to people who have their like dicks in their hands.
So they posted it like on a porn YouTube site.
Yeah, and the thing is like they instead of YouTube. I think of YouTube as like the audience is like 40-year-old moms and 12-year-old kids who still use the word gay in like a derogatory sense.
Hey, I do that.
Yeah, and X are like a bunch of guys who are just guys and chicks that are schlicking, and then if they see something bizarre, they're like, "Oh, fucking A."
Yeah.
Like Grimm Brothers.
So your pro tip right now is that we should post our stuff on porn sites.
Yes, post your stuff on porn sites. But my pro tip is post your stuff on communities that are a little bit off the beaten path. There's a lot of websites out there that are kind of frightening to the normal person, but the thing is, we're not normal people. There's places like Space Dicks, Space Ghetto. What else? Just if you can find something that will post like Goddess Bunny or like a midget kick fucking a chick, that's where you need to really push.
I never thought of that. It's a good idea. I
mean, yeah, it is a good point, for sure.
And also,
it's worth a shot. I don't know enough of those sites. Send them my way.
Yeah, well, I'm a big believer in, I don't know what to coin it as, but I like to say it's like copy pasta theory or sauce theory, where if you have like a distilled like bit of that of whatever you have that is kind of meme-worthy, and putting it in a place where people would think it's really cool to propagate, then they're going to be like, oh, well, people that look at it are going to like, oh, well, what the fuck is this shit? And they'll ask for the sauce. And they'll copy pasta if they don't know what the sauce is or the source of the material. And they'll kind of propagate it for you. This pretty much happened with Birdemic. with like the clip of the people attacking the CG birds with the wire hangers.
Yeah.
It happened with The Room with you'll tear me apart, Lisa.
Well, I guess, and the awesome thing about that is it's free, right? It's not about paying a publicist. It's not about. It's just about posting in the right places. So hopefully it'll bubble up and then get to more eyeballs or whatever, right?
It's pretty much trailer 2.0, because the original idea of a trailer was to get someone interested in the movie by kind of showing what the movie is about. But nowadays, the audience really doesn't give a shit about what the movie is about, and that's evident. The evidence in that is in today's trailers, where there's no story. It's just all the explosions and the guys punching out, women while in bear suits and stuff like that. And I think we need to evolve past that and just distill like the coolest moments. Like these are the whole reason that stuff that we're kind of doing, like I don't know, Robo Geisha or Hypertrophy.
Yeah. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because if you're producing a film in a different way, then like why would you try to promote it in the same way? So, but it's no one, like people always go back to like the Blair Witch Project, but no one's. I don't think anyone's kind of duplicated anything like that. But that definitely. I mean, for me too. Like I don't know what the fuck I'm doing when it comes to distribution and marketing and sales. I'm just all duh, and I guess that's what makes this stuff so hard, right?
Well, I could tell you as, a fan of your work that, like, the same way I became a fan of your work is the same way I became a fan of really bizarre stuff that I collect. I saw a little bit of it. I saw a little, like, an image, or I saw, like, an animated GIF. It's that kind of shit that kind of appeals to people, especially if you get, like, a really cool moment. Like,
and we should make a note. We should make a note that you, James, that you designed the little poster that's on the Wikipedia page for We Are the Strange of M's head on the ice cream cone. That was your design, right?
Yeah. So even though it's not high res.
For history's sake. So you got a flair for, like, I mean, that's the hardest thing for me. We were talking about that last time, I think. Like, how the fuck... I mean, maybe you're good at that, James, but I'm not. Like, taking what I make and just busting it, getting, like, the log line or, like, how to describe it to people is really hard.
Well, I'm sure Jimmy and you both have maybe fans that can pick out the little bits, and you could work with to be like, hey, what is the coolest moment to you? Can you just make an animated GIF of what you think is the coolest moment? And if you collate enough of that and then start propagating it on the internet, who knows? People might propagate it. I mean, I've seen Jimmy's stuff where Jimmy probably doesn't even know his stuff was posted. Like, I think it was posted on like this torrent site that like pretty much nobody knows about.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, no, not your full movie, just one before.
They already pirated you, Jimmy. You better shut it down. Better call the ICE squad.
Fucking Superman.
Let's go.
Track them all down.
Well, I need to feel more, like I know what I'm talking about, because I don't know what I'm talking about that. So James, why don't you tell us what you're trying to do that's not working right now?
Well, I'm getting, whenever I'm making stuff, I'm getting lost in the details. I usually, whenever I make models or environments or whatever, I usually put too much work into it that it kind of looks like crud. Like, I'm a big fan of whenever I
work it too much until it's just like, what is this shit? When you should have left it alone like maybe an hour or two before or something.
Pretty much, and what I'm going to be experimenting with is something that I got inspired by. There was this short. I don't know if you've seen it. It was like it had like Nintendo characters, and there was like Reggie and Miyamoto, and they were like raping and beating the shit out of Mario and Peach.
Yeah. The one that was all like, it was kind of like dusty looking, and it was that thing about Mario, right?
Yeah, and I think the thing about that was really cool is whoever made it did it with such low polygon models, but still it was recognizable. It was still, you could still follow it. So what I'm thinking of is maybe start doing a bunch of shorts where the models are like sub 500 polygon.
Yeah. So that's not working? We're supposed to tell people your problems, and we're supposed to try to solve them, so hopefully somebody has the same problems, and they'll be like,
My problem is there's too much stuff to make us something that's interesting to me, and then I lose interest halfway through.
I've been having that same problem too. Yeah, it's like, okay, so it's like too many ideas, right?
No, for me at least, it's like
I have that too.
For me, it's like I have to make a set, I have to make the props, I have to make the characters, but like halfway through it, it's like there's just so much shit I need to make for it to not look like, well.
Okay, so why don't you just go grab the props off the internet from all the like free 3D model sites and like retexture them or something?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Stock shit. Like
that's what I do for Badassery. I just go like, where's a tank? Where's a Geiger counter? Like, bam, download and like,
You guys are much better at finding those models than I am, because usually it's like, where's a gun? And I find like one type of gun. Or I like, where's a chair? I don't find any chairs.
Well, all you need to know is like what format to look for. So if you want like the model, just put free, whatever it is, and then like OBJ. And also with Cinema 4D, we can use Lightwave models too. So the LWF, I think. So you can find a ton if you look for OBJ, Lightwave format, and actually you can use Max files too. Not .max, but the other format. I forgot what it was, but.
Well, my problem with that is like there's so many websites that know that people are searching for free OBJ files that they say free OBJ. You go on the site and it says pay $80 for this model.
Well, there's not really that many of them. So what I do, like in Chrome, I know there's like this extension where you can block stuff from your search results. So when I was looking for them, I would get those and I'd block them so they stopped coming up in my search results. So now like I get really good search results, and there's only 3 or 4.
You know what the extension is?
For
the Chrome extension
to block it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now.
Not to throw a wrench into the conversation.
It'll probably be good for a lot of people to have. It's called Personal Block List.
Ah. Hear that, audience? Personal block list. Block all those shady sites.
So when I was making Badassery, I needed a ton of stuff, and I just went on there, and anything I looked for, submarine, office, helicopter, like all the stuff was there, and it was all like textured already. So I think what happens is a lot of people like rip them out of games, because someone told me the submarine I was using was from like Half-Life 2 or something. So, because that's one of the things that I'm looking at. I mean, I try to model as much as I can, but it comes down to like, if you want like an IV bag and like holder or whatever, and if you don't want to stylize it or make it different, if you just want one, it's like, why would you go and model that or all this normal stuff when you can just get it?
Yeah, that's how I always looked at it too, but I kind of look at that like characters as well, so I'm in a whole different boat.
Dude, the important thing is, like, you want to make movies, right? So it's like...
Yeah, exactly.
If we look at, like, live action, it's like we're not building the actors, right? They just show up, so it's kind of...
Well, I try to build the actors.
Well, your genetic experiments have failed in the past, so I don't have much faith in them in the future, though.
Oh.
So, because that's how you look at it, right, Jimmy? You're just like, I'm going to make a movie. I need people, I need a set, like, do it.
Yeah, I'm just all about cutting corners wherever I can, just getting it done as quick as possible so I can do the next one.
And that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, to me anyway. I know a lot of people get obsessed with just like, he needs to have perfect wrinkles in his face, otherwise I can't even look at him. Just get rid of him.
No, because that's definitely like a weakness that you can get into. Yeah, where you're tweaking off the shit, and it's like, if you never finish your movie or put it out, or like the people that see it, they're not going to even care. So like, just... I tell people, it's like, dude, go get Daz 3D or Poser or whatever and just, like, do it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's definitely a good place to start, too.
I'm retarded enough that, like, even Daz 3D and Poser, it perplexes me. I'm like, all right, there's a naked chick. What do I do with it now?
You mess with the morphs, and then you just watch it.
Well, like, I kind of, like, twist her junk around, and then I get bored.
Wait, this isn't supposed to be like a dumb podcast. I'm not supposed to be dumb. I'm supposed to be trying to help people while filmmaking. Okay. Let me turn my hat around the other way.
How do you? All right, Jimmy. Here's a good question.
Okay.
How do you do your animations with like Interposer or like with your Poser stuff? Because I'm sure a lot of people have Poser.
Yeah, let us know like the workflow. Like, what is it? How do you do it?
What do you mean? How do I do character animation?
Yeah.
Like your process, just your workflow from like to do a scene or something.
Yeah.
Well, it really depends on the shot. Like, it depends on if I have to use motion capture or not. So, for a shot that I have to use motion capture, I either record my own with the Kinect, or I use stock ones, and I bring them into Daz. I convert them to Annie blocks. I think we talked about this in the last one. but I'll go through it quickly again. I convert them to ani-blocks, which are what the animate system in DAZ uses, and then you can make it so that I just want this motion capture on the right arm, and I just want this motion capture on the left leg. So I mix them together like that until I need them, and then I re-export them, just the animation, just the keyframes. You can re-export them with a plugin. It's called, I forget what it's called off the top of my head. It's just like, it's an exporter that you use
So you're not
to make it
sending
into
the model
just
out, you're
keyframes.
just sending the animation data.
Yeah, you just send the data, and then with interposer, you can re-import that onto your character. So that's what I usually do, is I just do all the animation on just whatever the stock character that comes with the DAZ is. It's just like this regular dude. And you just make him do whatever you want, export it out, and then bring it into Cinema 4D that way. But if I'm not using, like if it's something I can't use motion capture for, I just do it by hand, just like turning the dial, I guess it would be called, dial or switch.
So what about the textures? Where do you do the textures, in DAZ or in Cinema 4D?
Photoshop. I don't even do them in any of the.
Or where do you apply them?
The characters aren't textured at all. In Cinema 4D, but I have like all the characters saved in Cinema 4D files. Like I kind of put them together in there. Like put all their clothes on them and stuff through Interposer. Because when I import them the other way, it seems to get funny sometimes.
So then you just apply the new animation data on your already saved textures characters.
Yes, pretty much. Yeah, and then I have all the backgrounds saved in the separate files. So it's just like I open up Cinema 4D, I push merge until everything's in one scene. Then I just save the last thing, save project as into the net render. Then hopefully it renders right. Usually it doesn't, but hopefully it does.
And all the clothes and stuff?
And if I don't use motion capture, what'd you say?
Well, I was going to say, all the clothes and stuff, do you just download those, or do you make those?
No, you either buy or download those. Like I don't know how to make those. I guess you can make your own.
Well, that's
when
the
I first
awesome
got
thing.
into it.
I remember about that too, right? You get the clothes, and all you do is like double click them, and they automatically fit to the character, right?
Yep, pretty much. And now they have another thing now. It's like a separate program called Crossdresser, where if like the clothes is only made for the male stock character, it converts it to the female stock character or the kid stock character, or whichever one of those stock characters.
And just so
that's
people
pretty
know,
cool.
like,
and they have stock hair.
Yeah, that's what I first used for my first animations way back when. I used Poser and After Effects. So it's like, because character animation's hard, to start out, and it's like scary. So use whatever you can.
Character modeling, it's really what got me. That's why I switched to this system. Because when you first try to learn, it's like it's all geared towards modeling. Really, there's not really a whole lot of animation tutorials out there. I found.
Oh, dude, there's none. There's
so,
like nothing.
Like,
yeah.
What are you talking about? I learned.
Yeah, it's mostly all just like modeling.
Yeah, I guess the.
So the modeling just kept confusing the hell out of me. So
well, yeah, because you see tutorials where it's like a box, right? It's like, take this box and make a realistic human head, and it's like,
Yeah, exactly.
But the way I look at it, it's like, if I want to make a human head that's going to look like the one that's already made, why not just use the one that's already made, right?
Yeah, exactly. And now for my next movie, I definitely want to experiment a little more. Like, I want to try also exporting the poser characters and then re-rigging them with the maybe ZBrush too, but re-rigging them with the R13 rig system and have like one of each. So if I need to do something with that rig, I can do it, and if I need to do something with poser motion, I'll do it on the same character kind of, or the same looking character.
I was looking around at the new DAZ stuff, and now they have like Go Z between DAZ and ZBrush, so you can send your DAZ model over to ZBrush and then modify it, and then it'll automatically update it in DAZ and make it a morph.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So you could go.
Cool. Yeah, I'd definitely check that out.
Because I don't know if people know, but I guess a lot of times, this is what I do too, like if you're going to make a monster or any of these different types of characters, you always need a base mesh. And it's usually just like a normal woman or man or just some like biped figure, and then you sculpt on it. So it's like, why not start from something like a poser DAZ model? Just,
Yeah, I've used ZBrush a few times. I used it for the very first animation kind of thing I did was a couple clips from one of my older movies called Reality Bleed Through, and I used ZBrush on like a stock Maya character. Then I brought that back into Maya and somehow tricked myself into making its head turn 3 times. That was my Maya experience.
Yeah, because there's these tools weren't around a long time ago, and like just like ZBrush does for modeling, it makes it really easy and accessible, and kind of what you see is what you get. It's kind of like Daz and Poser do for character modeling or whatever. It's just like there it is. Now you got it.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely watch it. What's that plugin called again? Just ZBrush Daz
It's
thing?
GoZ. It's just called GoZ for Daz.
GoZ.
Yeah.
I'm gonna look that up. Nice.
So I know.
For Daz, is that like a plugin, or is it just in ZBrush, kind of like GoZ for?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's GoZ, which if people listening don't know what GoZ is, so it's like this plugin that the company that makes ZBrush makes, where it allows it to send your ZBrush model to another 3D program and back, where it's just like one button. Because before, what you had to do is like export an OBJ and the texture separately, then apply them. But now it makes it super easy, so you just press a button. So now ZBrush has it for Cinema 4D, Maya Max, Daz, like almost all the major 3D apps. So yeah, it's really sweet.
I think it comes within.
Didn't you used to have to flip the texture over to or something?
Yeah, you had to like
they used to come backwards.
The V, the UV, like the V or something. You had to do all this crap. I still do it the old way because I'm like used to it.
I do it the new way because I'm cool.
Yeah, I bet. So we know what I guess me and Jimmy are working on, because we talked about last time. So why don't you tell us what you're working on right now, James, and what some kind of obstacles and shit you're coming up against, so maybe we can help you and change your life right here on this podcast.
All right, well...
Ooh, life-changing.
Yeah.
I'm working on, I'm waiting for some information for the new Binding of Isaac trailer thing. It's going to be the last extension for that game, and Edmund wants me to make a video for it.
Hey, why don't you tell people what that is, and if they want to see some of your stuff, what they should go look at, what it is.
Well, Binding of Isaac is this game done by Edmund McMillan and Florian Hemsel, I believe his name is. And it's a game that you play a abused child whose mother's trying to kill you. And it's kind of like Zelda meets Smash TV. And you can download it on Steam. It's made by the guy who did, Edmund did Super Meat Boy. It's a really cool game.
And so you're the kid in the game, or what? What relation do you have to it?
The game. No, like when the game was coming out, I made the original trailer for it, and I also made the updated trailer for the Halloween update. So I'm pretty much the go-to guy for all of.
And how did you make that trailer? What did you use? How'd you do it?
Well, the first trailer, I kind of put a camera in my basement and danced around half naked, and then I did some animation in ZBrush. I did some models using ZBrush to make them look like clay rubber puppets, and I animated them in Cinema 4D with Cactus Dance animation tools.
Yeah, and
just did it that way. The second one was strictly Cinema 4D. And using ZBrush for the models again. I reused only one model from the
Did you like the results that you got from using that workflow?
I really like it. It's the problem I find is, like I said before, I put too much work into my models, so then they start looking like they have cancer all over their body.
Yeah.
So I have to kind of cut back at some point. Like, I will, with ZBrush, get to a certain detail, and then I have to go back a few steps and just smooth it all out, because otherwise it's just going to look like chewed bubble gum.
Yeah, you have to kind of do the macro micro thing. I found, like, zoom out of your model and make sure it still looks good from far away, and then zoom back in and look at the fine details.
The problem I find is that ZBrush really makes models look like how they really are.
It makes them look what?
Better than they really are, because ZBrush is even their fast shader.
Yeah.
Makes it look really good. And then you put it in Cinema 4D, hit it with some lights, and it's like, wow, there's a lot of detail in there that doesn't look good.
Yeah, I found that with the matte caps, you mean, with the normal materials, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I think it might have, like, real-time ambient occlusion or something in ZBrush, or it does something like that. So, you can just go and put, that's one thing you can add to any model to make it look better is ambient occlusion, but, it takes forever to render. But something that I started doing that saves a lot of time is baking the ambient occlusion into the texture. So it's like in Cinema 4D, you can get a model, and then you can add a bake texture tag, and then you can say bake just the ambient occlusion. So it'll take like 5 minutes, but then it bakes it into the diffusion map. So then it looks like your model has the ambient occlusion all the time, but it doesn't render it because it's in the texture. So that's just like something to make it look a little better without killing your render.
Well, one thing I've been doing to kind of work around that was using my texture as a in the luminance property in the texture.
Oh, and not lighting?
And yeah, well, I use it. How should I say it? No, I'm sorry. I just lied. I use the texture as the color, but then I add like a solid color luminance, very low luminance to it, so that it kind of has some. It seems like it has some transparency to it, and if I really need to, I could just light it in a certain way and crush the blacks afterwards to kind of get rid of that, like, the character is always illuminated kind of look.
And, you know, like, a lot of that shit, like, what I've been looking at a lot is looking at, like, games, like how they optimize models and lighting for games, and there's a lot to learn for, like, a ghetto, you know, no-budget 3D filmmaker is to look at how they set up the textures and the models in games, because they use a lot of normal maps, and they bake the ambient occlusion and do all this shit. So it looks really good, but renders fast, so...
I haven't done any normal mapping. Is there, like, a way to do that? Like,
yeah, it's just like, I mean, you've exported displacement maps from ZBrush, right?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
You just export the normal map and apply it in the
Okay.
same way. Except,
I lost my ability, my skill, because I have that go to Z shit, and it doesn't do that.
Oh, yeah, then use the plugin. There's a multi-map exporter plugin. It comes with the new ZBrush, but you can download it. And then that's just like, you just turn on displacement, normal, all the different channels you want, and then say create and export, and it'll do it for you.
Oh, sexy.
So, yeah, that's why I didn't use GoZ, because it kind of... My workflow was like the old way, so I just keep doing that because I know where the maps are going and what's happening, but... Yeah.
Yeah.
Are we getting too technical here?
No.
Yeah, you know...
I'm following along.
When we were talking last time, I was like, man, why the fuck am I trying to model like all this stuff that like I could just get that already exists? So that's why I went and downloaded like the new DAZ, and I was like messing with it, and I was like, oh, I could just like bring this base model in the ZBrush and fucking sculpt on them. But the problem I had is that a lot of those models are too high poly for like what I want to do with them. Like,
Well,
Yeah, it gets complicated sometimes too.
they're like
I get a lot
50,000
of render
polys
trouble
and
with that.
I want
Well,
like
M-Dot.
5,000. Yeah.
you know you can use there's this thing called Make Human, or like
Yeah, I've heard of that. I never tried it though.
you can put out a low poly, pretty good, human model from that, and it pretty much has all the morph shit from like Poser and DAZ 3D.
Really? Oh, I'll check that out.
And it's freeware, so you people at home, you can actually like download it and not feel bad.
Yeah, because people might say, like, 50,000 polygons, that's not high polygon. But then, like, if you want, when I animate, I want, like, a lot of viewport speed. And say you had one character at, like, 20,000 polygons, maybe 30,000. On my current system, maybe I can get, like, 24 frames per second. But then when you put two characters in there, then it goes to, like, 5 frames a second. So I want super low poly. And I use super low poly models that I apply... sub polygon displacement maps to give them like millions of polygons, but so that's why I can't use stuff that's like 10, 20, 30,000 plus, because it's just too slow for me.
Yeah, well, I may be
Yeah, I
wrong.
get like no viewports.
Well, I think Make Human can export like maybe like a 5K polygon.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah, dude, those Poser and DAZ models like kill it, right? So your viewport
Yeah, I was
must
gonna
be like...
Say I can't even use the viewport basically. That's why I do all the character animation and DAZ and stuff to make sure it looks okay. But then I still get weird glitches that I don't even notice when I'm doing it.
Yeah, well, you know,
'Cause you
that's
can't even see it.
that's one of the downsides that's been the Cinema 4D. It's like the viewport performance. It's not on par with like all the
Yeah.
other 3D apps. And then if you put a lot of objects in there, even if they're super low poly, it gets slow too. So yeah, that's why I try to keep.
I was
my
thinking of
rigs
getting a
really
new
light.
video card. I don't even know if that would help though. A new video card. I have a 5770 right now, the ATI.
Nah, that's already like dope.
That's the only thing. Yeah,
That's already a good card, yeah.
A new one wouldn't even fix anything. Yeah, I figured.
I don't think so. No, it's just not optimized. Cinema 4D is not. It's not multi-threaded. I don't think that's why. With the
Mm-hmm.
well, isn't all the viewport stuff from the CPU? Or am I retarded?
The GPU?
I don't know.
Yeah,
What?
I mean, it's like the
No, I think
OpenGL.
viewport's all video card.
Yeah, it uses OpenGL, but then the thing is, when you're calculating like rigs, that's the CPU. But then I think to do that, it's single-threaded, so it can only use a single processor. And the way they did it in Cinema 4D, I read the forums all the time. Guys are talking about that. Like, they need to rewrite it so that it can use all the processors, because it only uses one. Because, yeah, it really sucks if you're doing a scene and then, like, right, it's like 4 frames a second, and you're like, yeah. And then you try to go down to, like, box mode, but if you're having, like, a guy punch another guy in the face, or, like, he has to walk and his feet have to touch the ground, box mode doesn't work for that, so.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, though, because sometimes it's just, like, sending myself surprises in the future, because sometimes I don't see the shot for, like, a month or two.
Yeah.
And then I watch it, I'm like, oh, it did come out all right after all. Okay, this isn't
that's
so
what I was
bad.
talking about. I did on We Are the Strange, where I wouldn't watch it, I would just animate it, but then what I did on Heartstring Marionette was I would render a hardware preview. Like, you can go to the render settings and change the render engine to hardware, and then turn off textures, turn off everything, and then it renders it super fast because it's using the OpenGL. So then I would do my previews in full speed by watching them like that, because it pretty much renders it in real time.
Yeah, that might be an interesting thing to try.
Yeah, and then you can actually start cutting your movie too, like an offline edit using those OpenGL renders, because they'll match your final shots, you know. So that's what I'm doing now.
That's a good idea.
Hey, James.
Yeah.
What's the scariest thing you found in, like, getting into 3D and, like, doing all this stuff, or the most daunting thing?
Oh, Christ.
Is it the technicalities, or is it still filmmaking storytelling?
It's still, well, I think that the scariest thing is you're your own set dresser, you're your own cinematographer, you're your own prop master, you're your own... You pretty much are taking on all responsibilities in a film.
So trying to handle everything.
Yeah, trying to handle everything is a pain in the ass.
Like
especially when, like, even if you do have vast libraries of, OBJ files that you can import, you still have to kind of figure out, well, what do you need? And how can you put everything in the scene without it looking haphazard, or making it look haphazard in a way that's stylish?
Do you draw top-down views of your scene, like when you're doing, like, concept art stuff? You ever tried that?
No. What I do is I throw a bunch of shit into Cinema 4D and then move things around and hope it turns out for the best.
Because what I do, like, I'll draw the set, like, from, like, a perspective view, and then I'll draw it from a top view, and then that's where it's like, there's a chair right here, and a pillar right here, and a tree right here. And I do that in the concept art when I draw it, so then when I go into 3D, I know exactly where the stuff goes, roughly, and it kind of...
Well, when I do plan out something I'm going to put together, I really can't marry the two ideas of, like, the top down, where everything's going to be, and what I want to look at. Because I kind of think of things from the camera's perspective, but I have no idea how I would kind of convert that to, oh, the object really ends up there. So
it'll happen, you'll see, spend more time in 3D and it'll happen.
Well, I end up having it, like, put my camera where I need it to be, and then moving things and seeing if I can match it to how I envisioned it. So
yeah.
I really can't do that top-down thing yet.
So it's like workflow organization stuff that's...
Yeah.
Yeah, because what about you, Jimmy? What do you think is the scariest thing?
Mine was all just, really just where to start, because I had, I already had a script and a movie kind of in my head. I was just like, now how do I get this thing out of my head onto this screen? That's always been the hardest part for me, is just translating it.
Like,
whether it's 3D or live action or anything.
Oh, okay.
Because I always have these big grand ideas in my head, and then trying to translate them to, like, it's like, oh, well, I can really only have 3 people on screen instead of an army of 10, 20 million,
Yeah.
So it's like just translating it down, getting it down to what's realistic. That's actually in my... And I found, like, some of the biggest problems I have are the more basic stuff. Like, oh, I gotta make him walk to this tree and then stand behind the tree and, look around it. And I'm, like, doing, like, basic stuff like that. It's always what I have trouble with. But then I can make giant monsters, and people masturbating and poop and dog mouths and everything, Like, that stuff I never have trouble with. It's always, like, the basic stuff.
Yeah, that
shouldn't be so much
like
trouble.
fucking walk cycles and all that shit. Or, like, going from like changing like stuff that's really hard that you don't realize. It's like making someone walk. Okay, like a walk cycle. All right, that's not that bad. But then if you're going from like someone sitting to someone walking, or like someone running to someone then to stopping and then like slamming a door, like it's going. So what I still do, it's like to save time. It's like if you notice my stuff a lot of the time, it'll only be one type of motion at a time, and I'll cut to a different shot and then go to the different motion, because it's like way more expensive time-wise, right, to have to tie different animated things together. So what I do is like I'll break up the photography so it goes to a new shot, so I don't have to animate it continuously.
Yeah, that's a huge headache too. Is just kind of connecting shots. Connecting shots can be a nightmare sometimes too.
Capture,
like
right, because there's like they're going to be weird shit that like float or something to like.
Yeah, there's always a part with the Kinect too where the arm just goes off sync for a split second and it'll just loop all around and everything. So I try to cut it between then or just use a different arm motion for that. Like it's like if you're supposed to be like there's a part where I had someone motion capture like chopping an axe down. So when my friend Victor did it, when he would come back up, like it would lose track of like the left arm. So the left arm would just wobble all over the place and not even look like realistic anymore. Just shoot off suddenly, and then it would capture. Just get right back on track.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is. You're like, I just want to make my fucking movie. I don't want to mess with this arm, right? But
yeah, and then you start thinking about, damn it, if I did just have actors, this would take 2 seconds. Just get in front of the camera and chop. I gotta sit here like a fucking jackass.
That was my whole thing. Like, it's like when you get into 3D, like, I made a bunch of live action crap before I got into 3D. But then when you get into 3D, there's so much technical stuff. So I just got like all caught up in all this technical shit and all these technical challenges, and then I was like, oh wait, I'm supposed to make a movie that people are supposed to be able to follow and blah blah. So like now I feel like I have a pretty good handle on the technical shit. Now the huge challenge is like storytelling and filmmaking, but I think it's easy to forget that from the start and just get caught up in the technicalities, like in 3D, if you get around like 3D forums or like really hardcore like 3D geeks who work for other people and shit, they're like, Daz, poser, those are joke programs, blah blah blah, and it's like, it's
they
just
kind of say that about Cinema 4D too.
Yeah, like Cinema 4D, but the thing is, those people are not making their own stuff that they're putting in front of audiences, because the audience doesn't give a fuck, like, right? They're not going to be like, oh, that's the poser model, Gabriella, like, they don't care. It's just like, if it's, and if they start noticing stuff like that, it means the shit sucks anyway, so it's like, so I'm trying to get back to like, no, it's a movie. Like, who cares how you made it? As long as it looks the way you want, does the shit you want, like, it's a movie, and that's what matters.
In the end, that is all that matters. Is just you gotta whatever helps you tell the story the best. Any way to get it done, I think, is just the right way.
There's just so much technical stuff to get out of the way or to wrap your head around. It can kind of feel like it's more important or something. You think that's true, James?
And then you put it on the internet. And a random kid goes, "That sucked. Fuck you."
Yeah. You didn't double that edge.
Yeah. It's like, you son of a bitch.
Yeah. So I guess when you're starting out, it's really, really hard because, it's like, I think when I started, I made this short and I was like, I want this girl to walk across the room. And then like I tried to animate and I was like, oh, her fucking leg, like it's stuck. Oh, what? I can't, her eyes turned white and her head spun around, and then like it took like 6 hours and I couldn't even do the simple shot. And then you forget what the movie's about or what you're making, right? Because you get caught up into these problems, and then that kind of seems like that's what it's all about. Like, okay, no, I'm just doing technical stuff, and then you forget about the movie.
I remember when I was making Tainted Milk, I was actually using 2 different Poser importer programs. I was using Interposer, and then I was using... There's one that comes with Poser. I think it's called Poser Fusion. Yeah. And then that one... Because I was using Sketch and Tune as well on Tainted Milk. So when you render it with Sketch and Tune, it picks up all the eyelashes, and it makes them have raccoon eyes. Yeah. And I couldn't find a way around it. So I would have to use both those programs for separate things, because you can't turn off textures in Fusion, but you can turn them off in Interposer. So I remember sometimes I'd have to shoot them from the back, because the walk cycle wouldn't work in Interposer, but it would work in Fusion. So I'd have to shoot them from the waist up if I wanted to do the Interposer one, because the legs wouldn't work. So it was a whole weird workaround I had to do for that. Yeah. Just figuring out how to do shit like that.
And I'm sure the stuff that's tough right now in 5 years, it'll all be press button, and then I mean that's the way it should be, right? Like our only problem should be like, how do I make a good movie? How do I make a compelling character? How do I make a cool ass scene? Like,
Yeah.
but I guess that's why no one really does it right now, or not many people do, because there's all that technical shit that gets in the way.
It's weird because I tried to look at like even just like watching documentaries and movies and stuff on like screenwriting and all that things, and nobody really even like they don't even really teach screenwriting. They just get a bunch of screenwriters together and go, "Oh, when I wrote this movie, this is what was going through my head." Like it was hard even just to find like, because I wanted to learn basic structure just for the hell of it, just to see like how off I was. And like it was hard to even find just anyone who would sit down and say that. They would just kind of tell their stories about.
If you want the base stuff, there's a couple books by Sid Field, who's like I think he's dead now, but like the Final Draft program like has all this shit all over it. But he has the books that are like the basic structure. But you know, I read like after We Are the Strange, I like read like fucking 40 books on screenwriting, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it this way and blah blah blah. And then from reading all those books and seeing what they do, all of them try to reverse engineer like scripts from good movies, right?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, so I was reading it, following his shit, and then I started watching the movies that I really liked and look up to, and none of them followed the formulas in any of those books. And then I was like, you know what? These fucking guys don't know what they're doing. They're just writing these books to make money and put on fucking workshops and try to sell a system, but the real great movies didn't read these fucking books. But it is good to know the structure, I think, but I believe, like, your films are totally unique because you're not following anyone else's formula, right?
Yeah.
You're not like, okay, it's the second act now, like, oh.
Yeah, I have no clue where my acts begin or end or anything. Well, because right now I'm in the writing stage of my next feature, because that's what I want to focus on once, this one's out. So I wanted to just go back and try to learn some stuff, but in the end I just realized it's just better to do it my way anyway.
Yeah, I think it's good to know some of the things they're trying to do. Like, there's some interesting stuff, but I think what a lot of those books do is make it seem like a science, like it's chemistry and it's a formula, and you need to have these exact things at exact times, and if you don't, then your script sucks, and that's totally not true, because especially since we're directing our own shit, the script's not that important. It's not like, unless we're trying to raise money, Well,
what I found with those books, and I guess maybe the film schools, because the scriptwriters that come out of those film schools kind of think the same way, is that these stories are really overdeveloped, but there's nothing really compelling you to actually care about the stories. Like, they're boring. Like,
other than the formula.
I guess they're really, like, well put together, but, like, I don't give a shit about what's going on. Meanwhile, you got people like, it's cliche to talk about, like, Hitchcock, but the guy was like, he was honest. He was like, hey, I think of a cool scene and I write around that. And I think that's a better way to write a movie, is go, okay, here's all the cool shit I want in the movie. Let me try to tie it all together.
Yeah, that's what I've always done. Like, before I read those books.
One of the things I'm trying to think of is, like, I'm making. I don't know if you told me this, M. or I came up with the idea, but I'm trying to write the stuff like it's a porn movie, and I'm trying to get all my sex scenes.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
Yeah, and I need to go from to point A to point B to point C, and actually have some kind of narrative structure, so people don't feel like it's just cobbled together. But honestly, it had, like, right now I'm writing my feature as well, Robotic Holy War, and it's like, all right, well, how do I mix, a giant crab monster coming out of the ground and a giant robotic Jesus Christ getting fucked by a cross, and
I think that's right, dude, when we're talking about that whole porn thing, because that's like my porn in Hard Chicken Marionette is sword fights, monsters, and just random fucking bizarre, crazy, cool shit. And so, like, that's how I did it. It's like, okay, this happens here, alright, then these monk dudes show up and this happens. So, I mean, it's all about pacing, and I refer to music a lot. Like, a good song, like how it builds up and how there's a mood at the beginning and then it releases and then it builds again. And, I tend to go more towards, like, musical themes or tension and build up rather than, like, first act, second act, third act. So,
well, I tend to write my stuff like it's a Megadeth song. I'm not elaborating on that either.
I'm trying to remember any Megadeth songs.
Well, like how their songs don't end the same way they start. Like it's like five different songs in one song.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
Hey You're 18, that shit. Like it starts off with like just guitar, then they're singing, and then there's this insane like instrumental.
Yeah, and I think the thing to remember, like what I lost sight of when I started reading those books, and I think what we should do is like we should look at the stuff that we like and be like, how is that made? How is that structured? Is that kind of like what I'm doing? And if so, then yeah, then it might work, instead of looking at like the, what was that dude, Robert something, who wrote Story. There's like all these gods of story and screenwriting, but they never made any good movies, like ever. I don't know if they even made any.
Well, I try to look at. I'm sorry, Jimmy, but I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. No, I
like,
didn't. Nothing important.
But the stuff I've been kind of looking at is like really trash cinema, just stuff like John Waters and the Kuchar brothers, and like movies that really aren't good by any stretch of the imagination, but are still entertaining. Because I think that's a better influence to draw from, because you are sitting there and watching the whole movie, and you don't feel compelled to look at your watch or walk out of the theater or whatever. And there's something to that is not in the screenwriting classes, and it's not in, structure.
Well, you know what it comes down to? It's just good base storytelling. So think about you telling a story to your friends. Like, you could build it up in a classic structure. So, I'm a 25-year-old man, and I'm living in New Jersey, and blah, blah, blah. Or you could be like, oh, man, I fucking puked all over my girlfriend, and then a midget came and was on fire. It was fucking crazy. And either way, people are going to pay attention, So it's like, there's different ways to tell a story, and they all work. It's just how, it's more comfortable with you, or,
Yeah, I kind of find myself kind of learning, exercising my film writing ability with just telling stories to friends.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
Like, I think that's something that everyone could do is, like, think of stuff that really appeals to you, stuff that happened to you, and try to make it interesting to your friends. Like, I'll think about my experiences in Hollywood and be like, tell a friend, like, yeah, I went to a taco place. When I walked out, I saw a tranny in a wheelchair kicking herself down Santa Monica Boulevard, and I couldn't help myself but eat a burrito and watch.
Yeah, it's
you gotta find a way to make things interesting.
See, and this is what fucked with me, too. Early on, I'd be like, I'd have some idea, and I would explain it to someone, and they didn't get it or think it was awesome, but I thought, well, when it's in the movie, it'll be good. And then later I learned, it's like, no, dude, if it doesn't work in a verbal story, then it's not going to work as a movie. Mm-hmm. So it's like in We Are the Strange, the beginning part where there's like that like sound in the building, the abstract thing that came from was like, I was walking by this building that was under construction, and I thought I heard a baby crying in there. And it was like all dark, and like I was walking in, I walked up in the building. I was like, what the fuck? Why is there a baby in this abandoned building? And as I went closer to like the middle of the building, then I realized it was like a cat, right? But then I was like, well, what if there was a baby? And then like I went to get it, and then these fucking robots showed up, and like, but.
Well, one thing I really want to ask Jimmy is like, how do you write your stuff? Because like, it doesn't seem like narratively like a classic narrative, yet it stays interesting from the beginning to end without seeming like contrived or seeming like it's trying to shock me.
I don't even know. I just kind of just do it. Like I usually try to do it in order. Like I have just notebooks, and notebooks are just shit. Well, I mean, I don't write the outline and stuff in order, but once I sit down to do the script, I try to do it from beginning to end and not jump around. So it's like I just have notebooks everywhere with just weird shit just written in all different directions and colors and everything. So I just kind of pick the best things and figure out how I can link them up and just put them all in kind of order.
So you would say like the way you do stuff is like it's kind of like making a porn movie where you got your best stuff and you're trying to tie it all together, or
kind of. I don't really. I'm trying not to think of like M. Dot said that his porn scenes would be like sword fighting, because there'd be a lot of sword fighting. But I don't know. I don't really have like things like that because I make up all the murder scenes like towards the end usually.
What about your big scene, like the big crazy ass scenes with all the tons of shit like moving all nuts? Those seem to me like the big set piece parts or whatever. Like those are the big, and it usually has a crazy ass sound and something's going on. Like
yeah, I usually don't script those though. I usually just kind of write in the script. If there's no dialogue there, I usually just write weird shit happens here, and then I'll just kind of I'll just make up the weird shit later on. Like that's where all right, well, maybe if I put some teeth here and some more eyeballs, and how about this giant eyeball monster comes out? Like, I don't really script that stuff out, because I'll never be able to get into that mindset again. It's like, I gotta do it right then and there,
but you
otherwise
have a sense, maybe, of like, okay, something intense needs to happen right here, or should happen, or...
Yeah, so I guess, those would be my kind of, like, your sword fighting scenes. Mine would be the weird shit scenes.
Because I know when I'm watching, I'm like, oh, yeah, here comes the scene, oh, shit. It's like, oh, here's the crazy stuff, like...
And another way that I kind of cheat is I have characters that I call in case shit happens characters, and one of the big ones in my movie is the dog Labby, and it's because I do his voice. So it's like if there's ever like a problem that I come across in the movie or the script or something, I'll just write something new with him or something new with like one of my roommates because I could just grab him and he could say something real quick, and hopefully I could fix or mold the story that way. Like, oh, I'll just add a Labby scene here.
It's kind of funny that you chose a dog to do that because like it kind of reminds me of that editing trick where like they string a conversation together through editing that really wasn't shot in a certain way. You would like cut to a certain person or a certain object to kind of blend the two shots together. And usually is usually referred to as like the dog shot or the third dog shot or looking at a dog shot. So I think it's funny that you kind of do that in the script writing phase where it's like, all right, well, let's get over it using the dog.
Well, yeah, that's kind of what I do. Is I just I make sure all the dialogue is as final as possible, and then you could just kind of write new stories around the dialogue if you have to. Like a lot of things in the third chapter of Where the Dead Go to Die is like a lot of that got shifted around. Like there's scenes that are at the end of the movie that were actually written at the beginning of the movie, where it was like the child abuse stuff. Like I had a couple child abuse scenes in there, but then I realized that I didn't need to do it 3 times. Like one time was enough. So I just kind of took one out of the beginning that I already did and just moved it to later on in the movie, and it made more sense actually, and it wasn't redundant either. So I think as long as I have like the dialogue and just like a skeleton of what's going to happen, I can just kind of pull the rest out of my ass.
Yeah, and I guess that's something we should make known too, is a lot of people might think, once you write your script, that's it. But at least in my experience, your script keeps changing until the film's actually done. Right? It's just like you're always balancing and you're like, oh, I can change this, make this work. How about if I did that? We'll put this together. Yeah. So it's alive, right? Until it's like shot. And then
I think it's bad to pre-plan too much, and I try not to write too many like long descriptions of shit going on because I know nobody wants to read them either. When you're sending it to other people, nobody wants to read 2 pages of slug lines.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid that stuff too.
I'm playing with my future script that I want you guys' opinion on. Before I started writing the script, I actually drew out the whole story in notebook form, like from beginning to end, every single shot of what I would want. And then I'm writing the script based on what I drew. Because I have trouble with like getting lost in exposition and getting lost in trying to push the story forward. And as the way to, I thought a way to counterbalance that is just draw crazy shit from beginning to end and try to make sense of that.
I think that's a good way, because what I do, like, I'll get caught up into writing stuff, and then I'm like, I'm trying to write some clever shit, but then I'm like, nah, I mean, all my favorite movies start on awesome visual things. And so, yeah, I try to come back to, like, no, let's come to a visual idea. Like, forget about the words, because it's really difficult to describe a really cool visual sequence without actually storyboarding it or drawing the pictures.
Yeah, but it's hard to remember stuff too. So if you don't write everything down somewhat, then I forget. I do anyway. I have a really bad memory. I forget everything all the time. So if I don't have everything written down 4 times, it won't happen in the movie.
Well, what brought me to doing that is because like filmmaking is a visual medium, and it's kind of silly that we start the visual medium by trying to figure out how to describe it. And I would think like the first thing to do is try to get the visual and then try to make sense of the visuals, you know?
Yeah, well, there's something to remember too. It's like the normal script writing workflow was because the person writing it had to give it to someone else who had to understand it to approve it to make money or whatever. But if you're making your own stuff, like I don't even have any real visual description in my script. It's mostly it's really just for dialogue and like pacing, because I know I'm going to add the visuals in the storyboard. So the script was like an artifact of the studio system because it had to go through all these other people. But we can make the script whatever we want now, because if you're doing it on your own.
Mm-hmm. Well, James, do you storyboard?
I'm sorry?
Do you storyboard, or you just do it right from your head?
I kind of just do it off the fly. Every time I storyboard, I feel like I really can't convey what a camera would see, because I'm not very familiar with, different camera lenses. And
that'll happen once you do some more stuff in 3D.
Oh, yeah. But like the thing is, like I kind of have an idea of what things kind of should be, but I don't want to kind of draw something and be like, well, let me try to get it as close to that as possible. I like to kind of think, well, I need a shot where, it's a little boy praying to the devil. Well, what are cool shots to do that? And then I'll just put the camera in different places, make the kid do different things, and just edit them all together so that it kind of seems like one continuous shot.
That's what I do too. Well, I mean, not the one continuous shot part, just kind of make up the shots like that. They'll just put everything in the scene and put a camera somewhere and see how it looks. Doesn't look good, and move the camera somewhere else.
I kind of do it halfway, because like, I'll just be like, it's a long shot or a medium shot or a close-up, super close-up. But then I give myself freedom, so once I get in the 3D set with the camera, it's like I'll change it, but I just, because you can like do 2 super detailed storyboards of every exact shot to the but I feel that's kind of a waste of time until you get in the real set, because stuff's usually different.
And sometimes what I can do, if it allows it, is I animate one big shot and then render it from like 5 different camera angles.
Yeah, I do that too.
That's a good cheat.
If you guys want to look at it, or the audience wants to look at it, I would say look up the Binding of Isaac Halloween update. And if you look at the thing, like when I made that thing, most of the shots were just, oh, well, I need a kid praying. Well, let me make a bunch of shots and edit them together. Oh, I need a shot of the devil. I need a bunch of shots of that. I need the kid like bleeding tar out his eyes. Let me get a bunch of shots and edit them together. I was just kind of running with general ideas and rendering them as I did. And I guess since the stuff I work on is so low polygon that I could render the stuff really quickly, that like I was really extraneous and did shots like willy-nilly. I didn't really plan. Like, I know that you guys have like your stuff isn't totally high poly, but it's more high poly than what I'm working with. So like you guys really do have to be economical. But I was just kind of like, fuck it. Let me try. This shot looks cool. Let me see if I can throw in the editing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing about storyboarding. You don't want to get stuck on it too, because when you get with your 3D camera and they're set and they're like, no, this is way better. So I just use it for general what I want to see in the scene. That's like kind of what it is for me. It's just like who's in the scene, what's in the scene. So then when I go and make my list of shit I need to model and make, I know what's going to be visible or not visible. And but on that note, where you said you let people know they can go check out the Binding of Isaac Halloween update, because now we're at the hour mark, the end of our podcast, episode number 2. So Jimmy Screamerclauz, do you want to let people know what they can check out from you right now?
Still the same thing. Where the Dead Go to Die comes out February 21st, which is a week and 2 days from today, but I guess they won't be hearing this till tomorrow.
Pre-order.
But you've got calendars. Yes, yeah. You can pre-order. You can also pre-order the VHS on unearthfilms.com now.
Pre-order all the things.
Pre-order them all.
Pre-order that Where the Dead Go to Die. So, James, is there anything else you wanted to let people know to check out so they know who you are and what you're doing?
Well, look up everything Binding of Isaac. I would say if you want to be like up to date with the shit I'm working on, go to jamesid.com, jamesid.com, and keep your eyes open, because I'm going to be like knocking out shit now. Like I said, there's another Binding of Isaac thing. I'm working on my feature film, and Anything Edmund makes, I'm probably going to make a video for.
And you're going to have all this pressure now because people are listening to you talking about it. It's going to be like, oh yeah, who's this guy? What's he doing? Oh, right.
Yeah. You know what? If there's people, if the 4 people listening to this could message me and be like, hey, where's that video, man? Like, maybe I'll actually make stuff on a more timely.
Hey, I did a voice in one of James's movies too.
Yeah, I
you
haven't
did.
touched that either.
I did. I played should I say what I played, or is it still a secret?
No, Jimmy plays a child molester who plays with his boobies.
Fucking typecasting.
And you can just go to m.strange.com and check out my A-book, the book for my movie that's coming out, and all kinds of other stuff. But yes, thank you, my Forever Alone filmmaking brothers, for being on this episode. We'll do more and more and more. And if you want to say a farewell to the internet, please do.
Bye, internet. Don't break.
Have fun.
Okay. Forever Alone. Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to the Forever Alone Filmmaking Podcast. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments section wherever this shit is posted. We'll do our best to answer them in a future show. We'll have more guests, animators, filmmakers, weirdos, who create alone. Until next time. It's a lonely world, but someone's gotta do it. Because Hollywood fucking sucks.